he said, God is me and I am God.
Yeah, he came out with it.
Okay. Do you understand what he means? You explained to him what he meant, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you go along with that?
No.
Okay.
Because what he said didn't make sense.
Why doesn't it make sense?
Yeah. Well, if you are going to make a claim that you are God, okay, then I'm going to have difficulty with accepting that.
I would straight away because of what God
exactly,
represents.
or whatever we think God represents.
Okay. If we're talking about because God takes the label of many things.
Absolutely.
Right? And I would never say God because I don't believe in that. I can get on in terms of consciousness.
Yes.
And things like that.
Yes, understandable.
Which they're trying to understand even now. And they can't fully understand it. But in that sense of things, when you look at the words of omnipotence, omnipresence, and omnipotence, all of these things, we are encapsulated and encapsulate all of those things. So in the same way, it is true. We are one and the same. We are all this stuff that has made up the universes. We are all a part of the interdimensions that the holy books talk about as well, because it's through the thread of consciousness that we're all connected.
Yes.
This is just a physical form.
True.
But it's like a car. We get into a car, we drive it. We're in a body and we're driving around with our spirit, ruh, whatever you want to call it. But nonetheless, it shows that we are not body.
Yeah.
We are not body. So we're more than body.
Yes.
And when we come to understanding that, some people understand that when they say God is me and I am God, blah blah.
Yeah.
I think what they're referring to is that. Are you Muslim, by the way?
Yes.
Okay. And if I'm incorrect, please tell me. But the word tawheed, does that mean unity?
Tawheed. Yes.
Tawheed means unity, the unity of being. I can understand all this kind of stuff because we're not body, and if we break ourselves down, nothing more than energy and light.
Absolutely.
Beyond atoms, beyond protons, we're just energy and light.
Yeah.
So if we are a source of light and energy, and beyond that has to have its own source. We are connected so deeply that this is almost like a game.
Yes.
To imagine that we are this is foolishness.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in that sense, I can understand if people are saying that beyond the mind, beyond the limitations of our mind and brain, there is a part of us that exists which is called consciousness.
Okay.
Beyond the subconscious and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
We are connected to something much bigger, but we don't know it.
Yeah.
And the reasons why we don't know it are very important. Because to me, in my opinion, it's only my opinion,
of
many others,
of course,
we are being so dumbed down to recognize any spiritual nature about ourselves that we believe ourselves to be a five senses limited human being, when in fact we're so much more.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So in that sense, I can understand what the guy meant, perhaps, and I can understand why you wouldn't necessarily adhere to it in thought, but maybe you can understand that's the level some people think.
Absolutely, I agree with you. Whenever somebody is talking about certain things, and we know as human beings, there are many things, you touched on the materialistic element. We know that there are certain things which we can test. There are certain things which we cannot test.
Right.
Okay? And it is a reality we have to accept. Okay? However, when it comes to what we would consider matters esoteric, okay, it's a different issue. Because for me to actually verify something which I cannot verify is going to be a bit of a difficult exercise. Okay, so then I am left to resort to either the workings only of my limited understanding, or I can perhaps venture to suggest to myself, wait a minute, if we have got such a consciousness, then something else must be connected. Yeah, and if there is something else that is connected, by definition, that whatever entity it is definitely greater than the sum of all the parts. Yeah?
I'm with you.
Yes, good.
Yeah.
So we know that if you look at everything around us, we can divide it into parts. Yes? Put it all together, it's one whole. But something is controlling that one whole. And whatever that one whole is, by definition, will be greater than all this together put. Yes? If that is the case, then my limited understanding should come to this logical conclusion that whatever it is has to, of necessity, communicate with me for me to understand what that entity is. And that's the approach I take.
Okay, and that's why you believe that it comes through Islam?
No, I look at it again, if the evidence suggests something, I would assess the evidence, that evidence should be able to give me, to my satisfaction, what I am looking for.
Okay.
Yeah. So naturally, a lot of people will say, I believe in this, I believe in that, I believe in X, Y, and Z. No problem. But on an evidential plane, those beliefs may not stand up to scrutiny. So logic would dictate that it is the evidence that must be initially assessed, and that evidence should lead you to a logical conclusion, and then you base your answer on the conclusion that you have arrived at.
Appreciate that. And logic and reasoning is a power source that we all have.
Absolutely.
Right? And we can all nurture.
Facilities, yes.
No problem with that one.
Yeah.
Although I do feel that whatever comes from reason and logic is going to be reasonably and logically limited.
Absolutely.
No doubt about
Agreed,
it.
agreed.
And getting back to a really important thing that you came up with
Yes.
about how to investigate anything
Yes.
that you're searching for.
Yeah.
I believe that even, there are mystics who have
Yes.
Sufis,
Yes,
sadhus,
you've got all, yes.
they've gone beyond
Yeah.
the reasoning, and they've
Yeah.
gone into the heart level,
Yes.
the connection with heart, the connection with all
Yes.
these things. And they've come up with fantastic ways of displaying the experience
Yes, yes.
of answers.
Yes,
You know what
yes,
I mean? Although
true,
you
true.
can just, like if you look at Rumi or Hafez,
Yes.
you can only look at them and think, oh, this is just poetry.
Yes,
But to
sounds
them,
like it, but it's a very in-depth understanding.
it's a very in-depth
Yes.
experience that they had, and
Yeah.
they put it down in,
True,
in
true.
words, and it's explaining that we are more, there is more.
Yes.
And I think when you start taking it away from because the Sufis were not appreciated by the Orthodox Islam, and as much as any mysticism within
Yes.
any organized religion, but it's through these people that so much comes through,
Yeah.
and it's quashed. It's
Yeah.
constantly quashed.
Yeah.
That's why today, if you've got anyone talking about the state of the world and the corruption and,
Yes.
and the organizations that are doing the corrupting, it's like you're told to be quiet, don't talk nonsense.
Yeah.
When in fact, if you investigate it just a little bit,
Yeah.
you can see exactly what's going on in this world,
Yeah.
and who's controlling it, and even why
Yeah.
to some degree.
No. I fully understand and appreciate what you are saying. My greatest concern has always been, for me as a human being, whatever yardstick I use, will by definition be a limited one and possibly a biased one. And that will be true of every other human being. Now, whether it is the mystics, whether it's the Sufi, whether it's the Buddhist who is meditating up the mountain, whoever it is, whatever they are going to make in terms of a pronouncement, it is based on what they seem to think is a connection.
Fantastic. So therefore, my brother,
Sure.
wouldn't we say the same thing about the prophets?
No, I have no problem with that. But this is where I go that step further, that these individuals are going to give you what I would consider to be a subjective assessment of what they are understanding.
Absolutely.
Now, one of the greatest weaknesses with this is that if it is subjective, it is not testable as such.
Okay. Which serves science perfectly.
Absolutely. But at the end of the day, we are thinking, living human beings. We have this, as you rightly pointed out, we have this facility to critically investigate matters. And the reason behind this, for some odd reason, is for us to arrive at some peaceful coexistence, not only within ourselves, but with everything external to us. So you find, for me, that I would have great difficulty for any human being, including myself, to claim that I have the ultimate yardstick in relation to how human beings should exist or the natural world.
I agree.
So again, logic dictates, as you said, there is a limitation to logic, but that limitation of necessity would not be such that you are unable to answer logical questions. So it is a given, as it were. So to me, an external criteria cannot be anything connected to a human being, nor can it be something that is connected to the creation or the natural world.
All right, that's how you see things. So that last
sure.
point, you're saying
Sure.
that is what causes the gulf between connecting everything that's outside of yourself
Absolutely.
to your inner reality and your inner understanding.
Absolutely. You see, because you have to have that external criteria.
Although I don't see that, bro. I can
sure.
appreciate as well that everything that's going on is a representation outwardly of what goes on inwardly.
Right, okay.
And I think that so many.
Sorry, can I just ask how in practice, how would you explain that to me?
For example, the Mahabharata.
The Mahabharata, yes.
The Mahabharata, right.
Yeah.
And that whole story was about Krishna having Arjun as his spiritual and conscious guide, telling him right from wrong, telling him that they were about to have a battle where both families were involved in both sides. And so what happens is that he had to be at peace with himself to take part in the battle.
Yes.
Yeah? Because he knew it was with his own kin as well. And in the same likeness, that I kind of see that as a metaphor to say that, look, the inner battle, even if you want to call it the jihad, you know, the jihad that takes place outwardly, firstly has to be quelled within.
Yeah, true.
Because that's the true jihad, is within yourself, overcoming your passions and everything else, right? Jihad out there has been a Western thing, used by Western people to make Islam and Muslims look absolutely
negative. Yes,
right?
Absolutely,
So in the same way, I see that that's what the Hindu version of it is.
Yes,
My version
I agree. But you know, if you look at it, for example, the story you touched on, when Krishna was advising Arjun, it was relatives fighting, he had to, as you said, he had to be at peace. But he had to be at peace for one thing, to be able to raise the sword.
Absolutely.
But what is it that Krishna taught him according to the Mahabharata? What did he say to Arjun that convinced Arjun that him raising? Now, when he said that, would he rightfully have been able to tell Krishna, okay, I agree with what you are saying, but does that mean that me killing this guy is just an illusion? Well, obviously not. Because the very basis of teaching somebody is because you live in a material world. Otherwise, it will not make sense.
I hear you, and it's great.
Exactly.
I think that the topic itself about the illusion.
I understand what you mean.
Levels,
absolutely.
You know?
Because at the end of the day, it also makes sense that as a human being, we can go only so far. After which, we would need somebody else to tell us about something. After which, another one would tell us. We have this system of teachers and students, etc. But over and above all this, my position is whatever we human beings are going to understand, whatever we are going to investigate and try and learn, has to have a source. Now that source by definition has to be external to everything around. Otherwise there's going to be an element of bias in whatever the source is going to say to us. And so the position as a Muslim is this, for me, that the Qur'an is a yardstick. That yardstick tells us how we should be looking at things. At the end of the day, every prophet, as you mentioned, came to earth with one thing only, a message to remind the created entity that your creator is concerned. I mean, as an example, you know what you said about this essence of the human being. In chapter 82, verse 6 of the Quran, the verse is emphatic, but at the same time it is appealing to the very core of the human being. It says there, Ya ayyuhal insan, O man, O humanity, ma gharraka bi rabbikal kareem. What has taken you away from your kind Lord? Now, why is it saying kind Lord? Well, think about it, there is nothing but kindness that emanates. But at the same time, because we are limited entities, we have been taught we have been given a system in which it endeavors for you collectively to live a most peaceful life that you can. Once you have got that facility, you are able to relax, be at peace with yourself, to be able to raise, you know what you said, the inside, to a certain understanding. All these Maulana Rumi, all these great Sufis, all these great philosophers, you know what, if they were too busy, digging here, there and everywhere, they wouldn't have been able to have had the time to be able to do that. And that is what the Creator is always telling the Muslim, that when we tell you to go 5 times a day to prostrate, it is not to make life hard for you. It is the greatest gift for the human being to be able to make that connection and increase that connection. And that is all it's, of course you can.
To me, and I don't mean this in any derogatory way
of course.
at all.
Yeah, sure.
But to me, it seems like It's almost like when a person who's addicted to a drug, they need to go into a rehabilitation centre.
Yes.
Right? It's the same for me when I see people getting into religions. They're
Okay.
going in to rehabilitate the ignorance within their minds. They need to decalcify all the problems in there.
Right, okay.
But when that's happened, you come out of the centre and you expand in your life, going forward with your own strength, your own. Okay. In the same way I see that as religion, and in the same way I see that when people like Hafez and Rumi, whoever, when they do their zikr and dhikr and their meditations and all this kind of thing, I believe that connection to the self, whatever you want to call it, is contacted.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be a message to display for every single soul on the earth, but it's a message that comes from with purity and with heart.
Agreed.
That explains to us, look man, there's no need for killing, there's no need for starvation, there's no need for power control. We can all live on this planet beautifully, you know, if we just go in accordance with respecting each other, understanding what respect is to not just to humans, but to the animal kingdom, to everything on the planet. This is personally how I see things.
No, I agree with you. I agree. You know, oftentimes when I'm having conversation, I will always say that I do not subscribe to the word religion. I do not subscribe to it. So a lot of people say, well, wait a minute, are you not from the Muslim religion? I said, no, those two don't go together. Yes, Islam itself is a complete system. It isn't what I would consider to be the word religion in the strictest sense. It isn't, and I don't subscribe to it. However, you know what you said? At the same time, you also accept the view that every human being is at different levels. Because they are at different levels, you are going to have to, of necessity, have a system which will also cater for all these different levels. And that is what I would submit Islam does. Now these other layers of understanding are just as valid. Islam permits you to do that. But as you rightly pointed out, it is for a purpose. The purpose is for the benefit of humanity, all humanity, and also other creation. And that necessarily means animals. Look, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, talked about how, you know, if you know that the earth is about to split into half and all life is going to stop existing, and you are in the process of planting a fruit tree, he says, go ahead and plant it, don't stop. I mean, well, if the world is about to finish, what's the point? At the end of the day, you are not in total control. Do what is good. Strive for the good. Where you see what you consider to be bad, try your best to make sure you can put a stop to it.
I agree.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say, I agree.
Yeah.
But wouldn't you say that the most important imperative action that we must take is to rid ourselves of the nafs?
Yes.
The things that separate us
Yes.
from the higher qualities of conscious awareness,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And the only place they exist are within here. So within us.
Within the human being,
each
yes.
and every
Absolutely,
individual.
yes.
And it's a good prescription for everybody to be aware that your battle is within.
Is within,
you know?
absolutely,
And
yeah.
not with other people,
Yeah.
but within.
Yeah.
So in that sense, totally.
Yeah.
Again, I see it as a centre, you know,
Yes.
where you can go and you can become aware of these things. But from that point onwards, you have to go alone, if you like, but you're never
Upward.
alone.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. You see, as a Muslim, yes, my job primarily, most important thing is to recognize the existence of the Creator. Fully with that knowledge, I can understand that if the Creator created me, the Creator has created everything else. My allegiance would be with the Creator. And I know logic dictates to me that the Creator would not instruct me to do something that is unjust to another person. No way. Yes? But there's a context here. Yes? There's a standard where there is a common person. Yes? This common person becomes a group. That group becomes a collective. That collective becomes a society. That society, in order for it to live in a peaceable manner, is going to, by definition, have to have rules. Those rules will be active in the society so that everybody, like we are today here, peacefully conversing, we can vehemently agree to disagree, but we will shake hands and walk away. Yes? We aren't going to suddenly say, right, just going to get my baton from the cave and let's get on with it. We will not do that, because a system has been put in place for the benefit of the collective. Now, because there are different types of human beings, some seem to be predisposed to violence, some are predisposed to goodness, not because they have got there. Yes, human beings when they are born are just as innocent as everything else and everybody else. Okay, so you have to have a system. That system has to be a just system. Now, when you are going to have a just system, whoever is going to impose that system would have to necessarily know every atom of the creation that is going to be addressed. So if the rule is going to come and the rule says, okay, you cannot do X, and a group of people say, well, there's nothing wrong with me doing X, there's a problem. Because when you ask the group, okay, do you know absolutely everything there is to know about that? Naturally, a logical human being will say, no, you can't know absolutely everything to the atom about it. But the one who created this, logically will be able to accept, we will be able to accept.
Yeah, but who would be able to be the spokesman for that? Are you saying that Sharia would be the representation of what you're talking about?
No. Okay. Like you just said, the representative. That again logically would be addressed by this idea of prophethood. That is what the prophets did.
Mahdi?
No, I'm not talking about the Mahdi. I'm talking about the prophets who had come and who implemented in practice what the message was. So for example, when you use the word Sharia, okay, to me, the words give you a connotation, If I were to tell you, okay, in the UK legal system, there is the criminal law and there is the civil law. Do you find a problem with that?
Yeah.
What?
Because really, it should be common-based law, full stop.
Well, common law is from where civil and criminal law actually emanated.
That's right.
Yes, we know that. Yeah. Okay, but currently we have a criminal law, civil law. Do we find any problem with the wording?
No.
Suppose I were to say we have got in the UK Sharia criminal law, what will happen?
Yeah, it'll be up in arms.
Hoo-ha everywhere. Why?
Because people don't understand what
absolutely.
it is. Right? Okay.
It's only about a legal system. It's talking about the criminal fraternity and the criminal element and how to have it addressed.
But brother, it still has points within it. You know, that people will say, well, actually, it's not because I want to be an upstarter.
No, I understand.
I just definitely don't agree with certain aspects.
Absolutely.
Then what?
I agree with you. But are you telling me that everybody in the United Kingdom agrees with every law in the country?
Do you know what, brother?
No.
I don't think everyone does.
No.
But unfortunately, too many do.
Well, there you are. Okay. But you can see the fact that you are saying unfortunately, it means you yourself have a disagreement with it.
Totally.
Exactly. So there isn't a problem with that also. However, like I said to you, if we work on the principle that the only entity that can know exactly everything right down to the atom about the created entity is the creator that created the entity.
I guess so. But
logical.
I guess so. You know, I'm not saying I totally agree.
No, but no problem. You are entitled to disagree.
As long as you agree with yourself, that's all
absolutely.
That but I do think that we're moving forward. It's time to change the paradigm that we're in.
Okay.
And we need to expand our conscious awareness of what being in existence it means.
Can accept that. I can accept that.
And,
yes.
I think that we need to start moving away from things that really shouldn't be holding us down in terms of topical conversation anymore. We've got to get beyond these so-called divisions.
I can accept that. I can accept that. I can
into something that is more nurturing for our experience here.
Yeah, for the benefit of the human being.
Man. And
I agree.
And what it is, these so-called what it is that the holy books or the mystics have been talking about, which is like when we're talking about kind of expanding ourselves, what are the techniques, what are the practices?
Absolutely.
So meditation comes into it, selfless serving comes into it.
I agree. However, my greatest concern with an approach like that, if it is the only approach, is when a person comes and tells you, for example, I am the one who will tell you how you must live your life. Number one. Yeah? Not only that, but then it comes to a stage where, for example, in Jonestown, Guyana, the Reverend Jimmy Jones, he asked them all to take poison and kill themselves, and they did. Now, do you think that is right?
No, of course not.
But this is where the problem will lie, where you have. Now, again, even for that, if you have an external yardstick, you'd be able to identify the problem immediately. And that is the importance of an external yardstick.
Okay. But I could see that as kind of people that have been so cut off from learning and discovery for themselves are always going to be susceptible to people that can manipulate your mind to do things that your heart may not be telling you to do, but your mind makes sense because you've been told.
Absolutely.
Like, this is the condition we're in. So when I mention us people, the globe, being so dumbed down, I mean it. I'm not
I know what you mean. I know, yes.
I mean, when you consider how the brain works, what affects it, is a number of things. Symbols, sounds, colours, food.
Yeah, they are triggers. They are triggers. But actually, you're absolutely right, brother. That is why you will find that. I was just telling a brother earlier on, if you were to tell somebody which one is more likely to be believed by a person in the country, something about Islam in the Sun newspaper or a Muslim telling you, more than likely it's going to be what is written in the Sun newspaper. That is unfortunately the reality. We have to accept it. But at the end of the day, the effort is into engage with people, clear misunderstanding, but at the same time, look, agree to disagree. I don't have a problem with that. If somebody comes and tells me I'm the most handsome guy, I'll say, well, I know that already. But if somebody comes and says I'm ugly, I will say you're entitled to your opinion. It doesn't matter. But as long as we are allowed to agree to disagree, absolutely, there should not be a problem. As you said, the golden lesson would be, I'm a human being, so are you. My greatest concern should be of you as a human being before anything else. And that is the principle that I would stand by.
And those are the laws that, in my opinion, they're innate.
Absolutely. Yes, they are. You don't need to be taught, as it were. They are there. But sometimes you have to bring them to the fore. So that you can be a good human being and engage with human beings to the extent where there's a human being in trouble, you must not look at their color, you must not look at their creed just to help them. That is not the way, and this is what I say, as a Muslim, I would say this confidently, that I would not have a problem if I saw somebody, I'm not going to look at his color, his creed or any, no, I would help the person first.
That's how it is. To me, like, you're very aware that as you have Islam, if I can say
yes, I understand.
But at the same time, your individual journey is taking place and you're expanding and you're unfolding, and
that is what Islam tells us to do, because at the end of the day we know that when we die we will go into our graves on our own. Our wives, our children, our friends are not going to come with us, so it is a personal journey. At the same time, that personal journey must not impinge on anybody else to the extent that you become unjust to them. So
what about animals? Because I'm a vegan myself, and I kind of see that what we do to animals is just not, we can't justify this no more. It's time to move on. It's time to move on from the cruelty, man. It's like people think that only people feel. It's not true. Animals feel. You know, and yet there we are, wiping them off the earth for fun and for food. It's crazy. These are the kind of things that I think we should be dealing with as well. You know what I mean?
I'm going to disagree with you then.
Go ahead.
Go on. I love my meat.
I know. Most people do.
But the problem is this. You see, I agree with you, okay? But if I were to take it to its logical conclusion, this is what I will see. A lion will eat a wildebeest. Do you think that's right?
I think that's the animal kingdom, man. I think that's the animals doing what they do.
But we are in the animals.
I know, but we've got the awareness
of the animals.
So we are part of it.
But we've got the awareness and the consciousness to do and to choose things. They don't. They work on program reactions. They see an animal, they need food, they eat it. We don't. But we can choose McDonald's.
Well, McDonald's me. I wouldn't choose McDonald's.
No, nor would I. But you know what I'm saying.
Just as an example. But if you think about it, brother, I agree with you, but as the brother has pointed out here, we are part of that natural world. You know, where at the start we talked about the whole connectedness of everything, okay? If you look at it and I were to ask you, okay, well, if I look at my teeth, does it have the facility to chew meat?
Yes, it does.
Why?
Because we have gone through an evolvement period where we was eating meat.
I agree. However, if we still have them, then we can't really suggest to ourselves that these are organs that are now obsolete.
No, I hear that.
So, if that is the case, then the question is, I agree with you. I have a disagreement about meat. Yeah?
Okay.
Now, if I were to ask you honestly speaking, are you saying plants don't have feelings?
No, they have feelings.
So should we stop eating
When
plants?
I say feelings, right?
I know what
I'm
you
not
mean.
doing personification.
Yeah, not the way, yes. But they are there. They are reactions.
They
Yeah.
resonate with the sun.
They are
the
reactions,
photons.
yeah.
They're alive.
They
Everything
are.
is
They are.
alive.
Well, if that is the case, then what do we eat?
You know, it's a really good question. It's a really good question,
Yeah.
and it gets back to what we was talking about a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
The more we expand in our spiritual awareness and
Yeah.
our spiritual conscious journey,
Okay.
the less and less and less we are going to be doing of the things that we were once doing without even thinking about it.
Okay.
You know?
That I can accept.
And that's
However,
just part
when
of
it
the-
when it comes to eating, it is a definite.
What is-
Otherwise, we would waste away
No,
if we
brother.
do not eat.
I've been a vegan for 25 years. I know, right? I've been eating rice, pulses, and
Yeah.
wonderful foods.
Well,
here.
yeah, absolutely. But what I am saying is that I agree with you. The issue is not that. The issue is the plants themselves do react. It's the level of reaction that you are talking about.
Yeah.
You see, we cannot look at the plant and say, can we see it feeling?
No, right.
But we can look at an animal and see it. That is the difference. It is an emotional argument, really.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's got to be taken on board.
Oh, absolutely,
The longer we
yeah.
actually say, well, you know, it's all right to eat, we're just negating the actual problem that really we should be talking about.
No,
which is,
I would agree
who
with
are
you.
we?
I would agree with
What
you.
do we need?
Agreed.
What do we need?
Agreed. But is it a problem? Should we not address that first?
What, of eating meat?
Yes.
Yeah, we should talk about that. Yeah, definitely.
That's what I'm saying. So the first point of call in this conversation would be, okay, what is the problem with eating meat? What is the problem?
For me, I don't like the suffering. I don't like the way they're treated.
I agree with
Corralled
you.
and
Now,
Sliced up, man.
suppose we were to say, okay, we need to eat meat. I'm saying, yeah, I want to eat meat. I do not want the animal to go through any kind of suffering.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much. Very kind of you. Yeah.
Well, give me one then.
Yes, exactly. Give him one then. There you are. You sure?
Brother. I know you would, don't worry.
Yeah. So you see, I would want to know. Okay, fine. I want to eat meat. What is the best way for me to eat meat? What would be the best way for me to kill
Well,
the
if you're going
animal?
to start saying kosher and halal,
No, I'm not saying that. I'm asking.
the best way to eat
What
meat,
would it be the best way?
I'm not sure if I understand the question, so you tell me what you mean.
Okay.
I'm not really.
I want to eat meat. Yes? I'm sure we can understand the meat we are talking about is what we would call from the animal kingdom.
Okay.
Okay? So I see a nice cow and I'm thinking barbecue here. Okay? I want to eat it. What is the best way,
To cook
in mine and your opinion, to kill it first? What do you think would it be? Do you think the best way to do it is just put it into boiling water?
No.
What would the best way be then?
Well, to cut it in a particular way which makes it quick for the animal, right?
Is that logical?
Is it logical? When it comes to barbarism, bro, is there any logic there?
Agreed.
Is there any logic when there's murder involved?
But now you see, these are emotive terms you are
They
applying.
are emotive, but,
But I don't want you to do that.
They're a reality for this place we're in right now.
But the reality is we also need to eat.
We do, brother, but see, what's happening here is that you're coming, and I'm not saying you're, because I know that you
No,
can
no,
come
no.
from all different levels, but like, what I'm saying is the argument is based from underneath the problem. It's like, I don't want to change my pattern of what I do, how I think,
Yeah,
how I feel,
yeah,
eat,
yeah.
right? But when you look at it from outside of yourself,
Yes.
whether you're coming from there or
Agreed. But here, you know what? Every time, brother, you are agreeing with what I am saying. That for us to actually definitively answer this question about meat, logic dictates that it should be an external criteria that will determine whether we can or we cannot.
You're absolutely right. And you know what?
And again, that's what I
was
say.
I was going to say this, yeah?
Yeah?
That when we, and I'm probably going to forget again, because you know what the problem is? Unlike you, I smoke weed and apparently it kills the brain cells. But even I don't
Not
believe
apparently.
that. I don't believe no,
It does.
I tell you what, we could get into a subject about weed, man. We should.
As long as I don't smoke it, I
No,
don't
brother, don't be scared of the weed.
I'm
Don't
not
be
scared of
the
I'm
weed,
not scared of the weed.
It's a-
I have seen the damage it causes.
Bro, listen.
It's not about being scared.
I wouldn't say you sound damaged in what you're talking about. I wouldn't
You're
say-
gonna ask my wife that.
Yeah, but I myself smoke it. I've done since I was 16, and I've got to be honest with you. I can talk, I can think, I can reason, and I can come to my own stuff.
How do you know that?
Because I'm doing it.
How do you know?
Because I'm doing it, because it's my experience.
So what test did you apply to determine whether you are or you are not?
That I am. This is the thing. I don't see this experience I'm having as me.
Are you prone to aggression?
No, the opposite. I'm
You
a
are-
very, very sensitive person. I don't like any.
Were you
forms of-
sensitive before you started using the weed?
Yeah, I was sensitive as a child. Very
So
sensitive.
nothing has changed.
Nothing's changed. In fact, the only thing I would say is that weed was the first thing that actually opened my eyes to investigating certain things.
Excellent. So when you get under
not saying it's the best
right,
thing in the world, I'm
excellent. So
saying
when
that
you
in
get
a
under
bad way.
intense pressure, do you smoke more weed?
I wouldn't, and I honestly answering you this, I wouldn't say I do. I wouldn't.
So
say
do you
that.
just have a consistent?
I have a consistent annoyance at things, right?
Yeah.
And the weed I do because I do
It
for
calms you
another
down.
reason. But I wouldn't say that. That's what people who smoke say. It does. It's a lie.
What does it do to you?
The weed, to me, is a natural herb. There are many, many, many natural things that the West has deemed negative.
I agree.
for
I
certain
agree.
reasons.
But what does it do to you? Why do you take it?
Why do I smoke weed? I guess the same reason why people enjoy doing anything. Is it? Is the best I can do.
You guess it's the same as enjoying eating meat?
Yeah.
So there isn't a
So,
problem, right? However, yeah.
I'm not slitting no throat to do it.
exactly.
I'm
But
not
here's
kidding, there's no blood.
no, agreed. Here's the problem though. Why do you do it?
Oh man. Whatever I say, it's irrelevant. Why
No.
Why do I do it?
For that determination, I'm the one asking the question.
I tell you what.
Yeah.
When I have a spliff, and the people I know have a spliff, a lot of people, they like to just go and rave it and just enjoy it. No, I don't. I like to contemplate. I can meditate. We can reason with each other. We can get deep.
So,
Do you know what I mean?
right,
And
excellent,
that's
no
a
problem.
wonderful thing.
So you are saying that when you take this weed, you go into this sort of phase where you start thinking deep, correct?
I would say that it comes
Okay.
along with me.
Right,
It
yeah,
doesn't
it comes.
start me
I understand
thinking
what you
deep.
mean, it comes along
It's
with you.
because of what I am.
So
already,
don't
I
you
guess.
think a better one would be where you don't take it and still achieve that?
To be honest with you, you may be saying that to be not smoking is a better thing. To be honest with you, my friend, the amount of tests that
Yes.
have been done,
Yes.
and for the positivity of smoking weed, far outnumber the negatives.
Okay.
Far outnumber.
Excellent.
But you wouldn't be
Yeah.
prone or privy to that information because anybody who starts thinking outside of the box is deemed a rebel.
Absolutely,
right?
I agree with that. I
So,
agree with that.
we can't have
Yeah,
people-
you see, we have first-hand experience as Muslims. We are always considered to be the rebels. Okay, but when you talk about that, you see, you have to look. As I told you, there has to be a common yardstick here. Okay, for example, if 5 people take weed and 2 are severely affected by it, do you think it is fair that they should use it?
Okay. In that scenario, when something is actually doing damage to a person,
Yeah.
no, I don't think they should do it. Even if they think it's nice, I don't think. But when I consider the damage that we are putting into our bodies from the foods we eat, the GMOs,
Yes,
the
yes.
chemtrails that are falling,
Yes, yes.
from the EMGs that are coming off televisions, iPhones, all these things that are damaging
Yeah,
your brain,
yeah.
dumbing you down.
Okay.
When I look at the history lessons
Yes.
and all the things that we were taught in school, which
Yes.
damaged me even more
Agreed.
into a state of ignorance, compared to having a spliff,
So,
I think-
you mean you are at one time intellectual until you got an education?
mate, education from education. There is no such thing in this country. It's bull.
I
It's,
see
it's
what
bull.
you mean.
It's his story.
Yeah.
It's his story.
Yeah, absolutely.
And who is this
yeah.
his
No,
we're
no, no.
talking
I agree
about?
with you. But as you said, you see, if 2 people are severely affected
Yeah.
out of 5,
Yeah.
and you were to then get the whole of society included into that, you now are going to have a problem here. Because I would suggest
Can I interject? When you say affected, in what terms are we talking?
negatively.
Yeah,
in
what
other
terms?
words, not only physically do they have a problem, but they become extremely aggressive towards other people.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now the problem with
like they do on drink.
Not
and
absolutely. The idea on the face of it sounds reasonable. However, when it's taken a bit deeper, we find a problem. Because if I were to take your approach and I said to you, okay, weed is a natural plant.
Which it is. Which it is.
It is. What about the opium poppy?
What about it?
Is it natural?
It's a natural plant.
It is. You then manipulate it,
Right.
and you get problems.
It depends what your gardener's problems.
That's it.
If you're saying that you no longer fit into a structured system of thought,
Well,
that isn't a
I tell you what,
problem.
let's take it
the
down.
problem is being that.
Okay, let's take it down to a sort of scenario. You know of people who use drugs
Yeah.
and inject it intravenously.
Okay.
Do you think that is, if they wish to do so, they should do it?
I think everyone should have their own free will to do what they want, but I've also got free will to suggest to somebody, my friend, you're worth more than that.
Right.
It's
Okay.
eating you away.
Right.
I would say.
Why is it eating the person away?
Because of what drugs do. Depends what kind of drugs we're talking about.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
you do know that it is eating the person away. Yes?
Yeah.
Is it healthy for society to have a sort of understanding for people to use that?
Of course. Of course.
You think it is
Of
valid?
course it is. Of course it is.
You think it is valid?
It's valid.
Is that why you think they have criminalized certain drugs?
No. I think they've criminalised certain drugs because it opens up people's minds, and when people's minds are open, they start asking questions.
Right, excellent. So you think that the ingestion of certain natural plants, in whatever form they are, opens up.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Then again, I'm asking you, what do you say of a system that allows you to do that without the ingestion of all this?
A system that allows you to do it. So a system that allows you to take drugs.
No, a system that allows you to do that kind of thinking without the ingestion of these plants.
Do I think?
Would
in
that
other
not
words,
be a better
freedom of
system?
thought? You mean freedom
Yeah,
of thought?
would that not be a better system?
But apparently that's the system we got. Apparently we live in a system where we're free to think what we want.
That's a matter of opinion, isn't it? However, I'm asking you, wouldn't that be a better system?
Would it be a better system to disallow people from taking drugs, but to
No,
investigate?
without the need for the ingestion of these natural herbs, plants.
Yeah, it would be better.
It would be
but
better.
It would also be
Now-
much better not to be eating meat.
No, again, a matter of
Physically,
opinion,
it's
isn't
better
it?
for you? No, it's
matter of opinion.
fact, because it's been proven that eating meat is no good for you. It's been proven that
What has it proven?
When you digest meat, number one, it takes 4 times as long to get out of your body. Number two, you're taking in all, apart from people that actually have the kosher and the halal.
Yes.
But most people don't, and they're ingesting the blood. They're ingesting the fear.
Now you stop there. You see, you are absolutely right. However, you made a distinction between halal, kosher, and other meats. Yes. Now again, we come back to our question we are asking: when I want to cut an animal, how should I do it?
You shouldn't.
Now, how should? But if it is, how should I do it?
Man, I guess.
And you are right.
Yeah,
You said, look, the quickest way.
Yeah.
Now, again, a system that tells you, look at the quickest and most effective way. That system is also telling you the expansion of the mind can take place without the ingestion of any kind of plants, because naturally you are right. You know, I know friends who smoke weed, and the majority of them will tell me, look, Shabir, will tell you the truth. When things get very pressurized, very tense, we will resort to that to calm us down.
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay.
Now, I have no problem. I will believe and accept what they have to say because they are telling me. I said, look, I'm telling you now, don't you think a system that allows you to settle down when you are getting into that kind of pressure situations, yeah, without the ingestion of things which at this moment in time you may think are good for you, but when the final research takes place, you will find they were very bad for you.
Well, what's your name, brother?
Shabir.
Shabir, Ismail.
Ismail, nice meeting you.
At the same
brother.
time,
Yeah.
we could be having the same conversation about meat. When the time comes for you to
Absolutely.
be told that, you know, this hasn't been good. And in
Agreed.
fact, let's have a look at the cancer rates and all the different tumours that are developing because of meat eating, right? Okay.
Okay.
Compared to those that
Yeah.
apparently suffer a little bit of brain loss and a bit of paranoia,
Yes.
which at the end of the day, I wondered myself. I was paranoid before I started smoking weed because I used to ask questions and think, what these people are doing ain't right. These controllers, what they're doing ain't right. Is that paranoia or is that just an awareness? Now the weed, like I said to you, opened me up investigated. I wouldn't say I need it. In fact, I'll be honest with you, I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm not addicted to weed. In fact, I can go for years and years and years without weed, no problem whatsoever.
Okay.
It's just something that I do in a sense recreational, but I do see the spiritual side of its
Okay,
nature.
but no, I agree with you. You see, there are certain tribes or groups of people also in India who will actually use it as a basis to achieve this spiritual sort of
Not all the time,
experience.
but they do it on
No, they
certain
do it.
days.
They do it. But again, I agree with that. Yes, on a personal level, no problem. I don't have a problem with it. However, when you talk about the meat, and maybe in the final analysis we will find it was not good for us. Again, you are agreeing with me when I say, well, you see, for every point that we are discussing, ideally, an external yardstick will answer the question.
But there
So
is a difference.
what is the external yardstick you keep going on about?
Sorry?
What is the external yardstick?
I'm a Muslim,
Right.
so it's the Quran.
But
I say.
But are you saying, is it the same external yardstick that says...
Brother, can you thank
Is
you.
it
Sorry,
the
brother.
same external yardstick that says that you should kill infidels and that you should create an Islamic caliphate across the whole world?
Right.
Is it the same
Okay.
yardstick?
So can I just ask you? No. Can I ask you, when you say kill all the infidels, where are you getting that information from?
Well, some people who
No,
claim
I'm
to-
asking you.
Where I'm getting it from is some people who claim to be Muslims
Yes.
say that this is true. They say they're getting it from the Quran,
Right. No.
and from interpretations of the Quran.
Wow. I can, you see, one of the, I entirely agree with your sentiments. However, like I said, you have made a claim, Now, all I'm asking is, where have you got it from?
I've told you,
'Cause,
I'm getting it from
you've got it
people
from
who-
third parties.
People who say that they are
Now,
getting
those,
it from the
I understand,
from the Quran.
but those third parties are not here. I